Well, thank you so much, Mark, for joining me today. Very excited to talk to a fellow, sneakerhead and sneaker addict, and how we're, transforming our sneaker world a little bit. And me as a consumer, I've kind of been frustrated for a very long time on, what sneaker companies sort of, produce and what they say they do and all these different things. And overall the fashion world, right? There's a lot of, dirtiness that comes out of that industry that's not sort of talked about a lot. So I want to get into the brand you created, why you created it. But before we do that, talk a little bit about, your journey and your path before starting Komrads. What was sort of the light bulb moment for you and the decision to do so?
I'm a marketeer. I had an agency here in Belgium. We did some social media for a lot of brands, also on a European level. And we had some clients who were into fashion. And by looking in those cases and how they worked, I was really surprised about the impact that fashion had on the planet. And also on the people, because most of the things, most of the fashion products are made in Asia, Vietnam, China, Bangladesh. I was also really surprised about the overconsumption and about the way that fashion works, with 2 collections or 3 collections or 4 collections a year. Once a new collection is launched, they take all the old stuff, which is only 6 months old, out of the store, put it in a warehouse and put some new stuff in it. I always compare that to Coca-Cola. It would be crazy if they would take every 6 months all the Coca-Colas out of the machines and out of the retail and put some new stuff in there. Right. So the business model from the fashion industry was for me not really a model that was lucrative or that was good. And then especially if you see the impact, the overproduction, the way it's made, the materials it's made of. So that was for me an eye opener. And together with my wife, we decided that could be different, and we saw an opportunity in there. And especially in the sneaker world, where you have the big players, but you don't have so much brands that are really purpose-driven, and that are sustainable, especially not at the time when we started. And so, we decided to create a sneaker brand, and our purpose was to make the most sustainable sneaker in the world.
And how does that happen? Because making sneakers is very difficult, right? There's so many different materials that can go into it, so many different layers of a shoe. So when you first approach it, how do you even go? Like, what are the first steps of saying, okay, we're gonna create a sneaker company, but how do we make it, fully sustainable through every single part of the creation of the shoe, the production of the shoe, the materials we use? Like, I guess talk about all the sort of detail and the process of actually, making, a sneaker that's good for the environment and good for the people who make it.
We were very naive, we didn't know anything about how you made a sneaker. We just loved sneakers. And so probably the fact that we were so naive was the reason that we did it, because if we knew anything about how you make a sneaker, we probably never started our company, because it's very complex, And the first thing that we did is we made some ground rules. We said, okay, our shoes have to be made by people that we know. So we produce in Portugal, and it's a 2-hour flight. So we often go visit our factory. We have a very good relationship with them. So we know that the people who are working there are working under European laws. So they have enough vacation, they have a good salary, there are no kids working there. So that was our first ground rule. Second ground rule was that we didn't want to use animal leather. So we start our journey to find a perfect alternative for animal leather. So all our sneakers had to be vegan. And also we wanted to limit the impact on the planet of our production process. So the usage of water, the emission of CO2. It was a long journey. We had some help. We found some people who have experience in the sneaker business, and it was just trial and error. I think the first 4 years we worked on making samples. I think we made about 100 samples. At least. And wow. Then we found out that there was a thing like apple leather, which is an alternative of animal leather, but made of apples. It's made in Italy. So this means that transport was limited to Portugal. Yeah, we started working with a sneaker made of apples. And then we found out also that there was an NGO in the south of Spain, which is called Sequel. And they actually go on the Atlantic Ocean and work together with fishermen to get plastic out of the ocean. And they make new raw material out of that. And so very easily we had two collections. We use recycled rubbers for our soles. And so on every aspect of what we are doing, we try to be as sustainable as possible. Not only the materials, but also the way that we produce. Also, for instance, we work for our shipping and our fulfillment and our logistics. We have a partner who is a sheltered workplace. So they work with people who have a distance to the job market, or they're mentally ill, or they are refugees, or they are ex-convicts. And so those are the people who ship and pick and pack our sneakers. So in every aspect that has an influence on our business, we try to do as good as possible.
Amazing. I guess when you were, naive it's actually always a really good way to start. I talked to a ton of founders who, come into a sector that they're not familiar of, and it can be a very positive thing, right? Because they look at it and say, hey, well, why can't we just do it like this? And people are like, well, it's always been done like this. You can't do it like that. And then they're just asking like, why?
That's very true, because we talk to a lot of the big players and they say, if you would not have been so naive, you would have never done it, because we have this kind of production process. We've done it for years and it's very hard to change. So if you start from like a blank canvas, you can say, okay, this we're not going to do, because it doesn't relate to our DNA. So probably the fact that we had no experience at all was a very good thing.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the, maybe not statistics or data that you maybe looked into, like coming into the industry and kind of looking at, the waste that the fashion industry has in it, and sort of its effect on water usage, its effect on land degradation, and billions of tons of garbage that it amasses over a period of time, over a year, and every quarter, like you said, if they release new stuff. Like, what was some of the data? I mean, the stuff that popped out to me, like 21 billion tons of garbage. It's really numbers that it's almost not even real. Right. Yeah. But it's hidden so effectively, that people, don't see it or realize it. But it's the biggest polluter in the world behind oil.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just quite insane how it's not scrutinized the way that industry is, yet it's still as negatively impactful.
Two things that surprised me was, one, that it's the second most polluting industry in the world. I was completely not aware of that. And secondly, in the sneaker industry, 97% of all shoes that are produced are landed up in landfills.
I mean, that is just like, it's unreal.
No, it is. And what surprised me is that the consumer is not more aware of that and is not acting like that. If we look at the food industry, we're all very cautious on what we eat, and it has to have labels, and it has to have all the from where it comes,
right.
what is in it, And for fashion, we don't ask that question. We say, okay, it's a nice shoe, so I buy it. We don't look where it's made, who made it, of what it is made. That's not an interest for the consumer, but that has to change because, as you said, there are the fashion deserts where there are millions of tons just dumped in a desert where people have to live, and that is not okay. So that was really surprising to us, that the impact of the fashion industry is so huge and is so big, and that nobody really reacts. That brands and consumers are they're just going on buying new stuff, throwing stuff away. It's amazing. It's amazing, and it has to change.
How can it? And this is it's a question I ask for all fashion brands that I have on here, because it's sort of a dilemma, right? Is that you want to do well as a business, right? You want to scale appropriately, but you also want to keep your ethics and your foundation that you started with intact, right? If it's easy to do if you're selling 1,000 shoes or 5,000 shoes, but what if then you do really good at your job, and now you're all of a sudden you're selling 50, 100,000, right? Pairs of shoes. Like, how do you scale while also, keeping your sort of ethics that you started with and sort of this impact model that we're talking about now? It's easy to do it when you're kind of starting out, but as you scale, are you finding it be more difficult? Do you have sort of plans in place of like, hey, how can we keep the same foundation as we grow as a startup and a brand?
Yeah, that's because before I became an eco entrepreneur, I was just a marketing guy, and then often you look at opportunities. How can I sell more? And what are the channels that are doing well? You have Amazon, you have Zalando, and things like that. But as you are or when we changed to okay, we're going to be aware of what we're doing. We made those ground rules, and that is sometimes hard to keep to them, because producing sneakers in Europe, producing sneakers with eco materials, it's about 5 times more expensive in production and in getting those materials than making them from plastics or making them from animal leather in Vietnam. And so but that's the path we chose, and so sometimes we need to let an opportunity go because it doesn't fit what we want to do. You also have the price, if your production is 5 times more expensive, your consumer price should be 5 times more expensive if you follow a business model, but then you're way too expensive compared to a not sustainable sneaker. So that's a dilemma that we're working on every day and that we have to face every day. But for the moment, production, it's okay. We can scale. That is not a difficult thing, but it's a challenge every day to keep the balance between being also a commercial company, because we are not an NGO. We want to sell we want to sell a lot of sneakers and having a positive net result. But also on the other hand, we don't want to compromise the idea that we had and the ground rules that we had from the beginning of our company. So it's always a balance, and it's not so easy, to be honest.
When you talk about the different layers of the shoes, there's a bunch of different components that go into it, like a car. You have all these different shoestrings and soles and top, bottom, inside, all these different things. Like, I guess talk about each part of the shoe and how it's sort of responsibly made.
So for our soles, we only use recycled rubber, which is rubber that is collected by a company in Portugal, which is leftover rubber or it's second-hand rubber. So we only use recycled rubber for our soles. We are now working on using soles where there are shredded sneakers so it's a process where they can go up to 30% of sneakers which are shredded and mixed with recycled rubber to be circular. Our uppers are made out of ocean plastics. So we work with this company called Sequel, NGO from Spain, and they have a certified product. We are 100% sure that it's made out of post-consumer land plastic or ocean plastics. Or we have our APL collection, which is made out of apples, apple leather, which is 50% apples, shredded apples, and 50% PUs, because of course you cannot make from an apple a shoe. So you have to compromise there a little bit. Our laces are all made of recycled cotton. Our lining is made of recycled cotton. So our boxes are made of recycled carton. So every step we try to go as far as possible what is in the market. For instance, for the laces, you have these little plastic things on the end so that they can go through the holes. That is something that we don't find a solution for the moment, because it's way too expensive to have laces where the plastic is replaced by something else. It's also not on the market for the moment. So, of course, you have to compromise. You cannot make a sneaker who has zero impact, but you can go as far as possible to zero impact. And that is what we're trying to do every day. We try to look how can we improve what we make without neglecting our business model, of course, because again, we are a commercial company and we want to sell a lot of sneakers and we want to make a profit. But that doesn't mean that you cannot go as far as possible into the shoe. So every aspect of our shoe, we're looking at, is there a better solution? For instance, one of the things that we are doing now is when we sell shoes, we sell them to the consumer. But when the consumer doesn't need them anymore, okay, they have to find a solution. That is why 97% of all sneakers are just thrown away. What we are doing now is we're launching our rebirth program, where we ask the people who buy our sneakers, if you don't use them anymore, send them back to us. So we recollect them, and we have a partner who shred them into little pieces. And now we are trying to find a process where we not only can put 30% of shredded sneakers into our soles, but up to 70%. But that is, we work with a partner together in Holland, and we're trying to find new ways so that we can optimize everything that we do.
Amazing. You mentioned the apple skin, or sort of the apple leather, and this is sort of the outer skin of an apple that is usually probably thrown away because they just want to, because apple farmers or something just want to use the inside of the apple to make apple like sauce or juice or jam or something like that. And so basically you guys either purchase the outer skin of that, and then that goes through the process of actually making it into a material.
Yeah, it's in Italy, in the north of Italy, you have a big apple industry. They're making juice, they're making marmalade and things like that from apples. But mostly the skin and the middle part is thrown away. And we work together with this company in Italy that collect all the skins, and they grind them. They make kind of looks like dust, and then they mix that with PUs to make new raw material. And it's they have about 10 different ways that they work with these apples, with the apples. And so we tested it, if it's durable, if it's strong enough to make a sneaker out of it. Together with them, we improved the material so that it's really ready to make a sneaker out of it, and we start producing our sneakers.
That's awesome. You mentioned that you and your wife started this company, right? How has it sort of been when you guys first started this and talking about it? What was her background? You said you're from a marketing background, and so it's good to have a team that has specialties in a couple different things, right? And maybe you don't come from the sector, but you bring skills into it to start. So what was her background and your early conversations like in doing this? Was there any hesitation on either of your ends on doing something like this?
It's she's also a marketeer. So she used to work for eBay as a digital marketeer, and when we started the company, around the kitchen table, as most companies start, in the garage or around the kitchen table. So in the beginning even we start designing sneakers, but then very very soon we said, okay, no, this is not what we need to do. So we found a designer, and also one of the things was we have 4 children. And our oldest son, he is very into saving the planet. With Greta Thunberg, he follows that movement. And one day he came home and he says, "Dad, you're really the generation who made a mess out of it. You consumed, you're over-consumed." And I was like in defense mode. I said, "Nah, it's not true. We didn't know about it and things like that." But he was right. We just, everything went bigger, and we could travel from Europe to the States or to South America. We could go to Thailand on holiday, and we bought whatever we wanted because, there was so many sneaker brands or so many clothing stores. You didn't have to think about what you bought. You just, it's nice. Okay, I buy it. I don't wear it anymore. Okay, no problem. I throw it away. Somebody will solve the problem. But at the end, he was right. And we are the generation who have seen the growth and have profited from the growth, but have never taken responsibility for what we did. And so that's fact that our children were kind of teasing us and asking a lot of questions, and also the fact that we learned a lot about the fashion industry, was those two things came together, and we said, okay, we need to do this differently.
How old is he?
He's 18. He's 18,
yeah. So he's never known a world without the internet. That's the advantage, right? That's the advantage that he has. Yeah, you gotta understand.
Yeah. Our youngest son, he's 11. and he
Yeah.
needed to do an interview with me about internet. And I say, there was no internet, there was no smartphone, and he says, but what did you do then?
Exactly.
And I
Yeah.
said, yeah, I don't know what we did, but we didn't have PlayStation, or we didn't have FIFA or whatever. It was just not there. Or Fortnite didn't exist. So it was. He didn't. He even asked me what records and CDs, that kind of stuff, because they only know that music is virtual. So it's another world, and yeah, but
Yeah.
there.
Well, hey, that's good that they know how to use the internet to research things and
Yeah.
understand topics. I think that's the beauty about the internet, is you can learn about anything.
Yeah.
And learn that how it was like, what it's like to make things,
Yeah.
and create things, and it's
And yeah.
that's where this generation could really thrive, and I think has the ability to change some things, because our consumer dollar is incredibly powerful.
We need to change, because we're taking so much from the planet without respect. We're taking oil, we're taking gas, we're cutting down trees. We just do things because it's for our benefit, and that's not okay. And it's okay. And we find it okay that people have to make shoes without social benefits, or without holiday, or our children are working, and that needs to change. I think everybody needs to take their responsibility. I once read that the planet will survive, no problem. The planet is strong enough to survive, but the people on it will not survive if we go on like this. So a change is necessary, and especially not only in fashion, in a lot of different industries.
Yeah.
But especially in fashion, because this is really something that easily can be changed if we,
Yep.
we
The
should
tools are
label
there
everything.
now. The tools are there now to do it properly and better, and you can still have a thriving business and just do it responsibly.
Yeah.
Our lives don't have to change. That I think we always think that there's compromise. That's not necessarily the case. I think it just takes people dedicating their time, sacrificing a little bit, and saying, hey, it took you guys years to develop something like this, but now that it gives consumers an opportunity, it creates really good ethical jobs, and it's not that you can't go to other parts of the world and install maybe your ethics there as well, right? Maybe if you want to open something, have your factory in Portugal, but maybe go somewhere else and implement those same foundations and ideology and ethics and standards, and just export them to other countries and start to show that there's a different way to do this and still be profitable, still create jobs, but do it in a way that's respectful to human beings and the planet. It's all doable.
We did in the beginning. We did research. What are consumers thinking about sustainable sneakers, or what are sustainable sneakers for consumers? And the first thing they said is when they need to look good. So we created sneakers. We didn't want to create sneakers that are sustainable, but we want to make a sneaker that looks good, that is cool, that can be put next to the big brands, but that is also sustainable, and that is made in the right way. So it's perfectly possible. I think there's some legislation needed, that brands have to take responsibility. That is not like a free choice, but that you have to take as a company responsibility for what you make, and especially also find a solution if the consumer doesn't need it anymore. But on the other hand, consumers are getting more and more aware, and there is a lot of news about it. Talks like this definitely help to change, because everybody is aware that there is a problem. I don't think that anybody is aware anymore that there is a problem and that we need to change. We need to change our behavior. And it's indeed small step. You don't need to do anything radical to be part of the solution. There are opportunities. You can buy sneakers that are made in a conscious way, sneakers that are made of good materials. You can do that. It's just choice.
I want to end on a little bit about the future. So much dedication and time, years have gone into development, researching, and now finally product on the market. What does the next 3 to 5 years, look like for you and the team, and what is success and goals that maybe you want to reach in that time span?
We want to grow. we want to become not only in Europe but also in the rest of the world. We're looking at America also. We want to grow as one of the leading sustainable sneaker brands. For us, the main purpose is giving the consumer the possibility or the choice to be part of the solution and not be part of the problem. So we want to develop our collections. Making more choices, more sneakers, more colors. We want to definitely work a lot on our circular program, because I think that's a really important part of being sustainable. Is giving the consumer the possibility to send the sneakers back to us, and we will find a solution to not be part of the 97% of all shoes that are thrown away. And we definitely want to grow. We have big plans. We're going to relaunch in the UK. We're looking at the Americas to start there. I think we can grow to become one of the biggest sneaker brands, sustainable sneaker brands. And as I said, give the consumer the possibility to make the right choice.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for taking the time. I know you're busy, and I'm always thankful and grateful when people jump on and talk about their story and mission. It's I know it's very difficult to build something like this, and it's really exciting, and it's a win to even get to this point. Congrats to you and Greet, your wife, on getting this far, and best of luck for the next decade.
And thanks for giving us this platform to talk about our product.